Hello, everyone. I'm Tracy Derwin, and I'm here with Shane Buell. In today's video, we're going to be going over the fire near Sonora in Northern California. The specific area is called Chinese Camp. It's an old mining town that was established in the mid 1800s, and it's right at the beginning of Yosemite National Park. So if you're in California, there's a good chance you've been there. It's one of the most beautiful places to go visit, but it is being hit with a lot of fires. That whole area, the Sierra Nevadas, have experienced a large number of fires recently. When I was talking to Shane about this, when I think Sonora County, I think about a large number of disappearances. So a lot of people mysteriously disappear in this area. And there's a specific area called Donnell Vista. It's a lookout point where a lot of people unusually disappear. They go there, they leave their car there, and then they're never seen again. And at the bottom of this lookout point, they have found remains of people. And it's just very, I guess, suspicious that this particular place have so many people disappearing from. So I thought I'd share that. But today we're going to go over the fire behavior and then some of the reasonings for what caused this fire.
All right. So yes, 2 days ago on September 2nd, there was a lightning storm that came through, and allegedly there was 10,000 plus lightning strikes in Northern California, and over a dozen fires were allegedly started by these lightning strikes. The largest of which is called the 6.5 fire, which is burning near a place called Chinese Camp in California. And this town has actually been very heavily impacted with dozens of structures that have been destroyed. I do have some images here. This one shows this guy's neighbor's house fully engulfed, and it looks like it's burning rather evenly. So it's like hard to tell if it, caught from one side to the other or if it was burning from the inside out. There was also another historic building that burned down. I think this might have been like a bank or something. It was a building that was almost 200 years old, and it was basically completely gutted from the inside out. And then here's another image of the inside of that building. And I also have some videos as well that we're going to go through to show some of the fire behavior. The most interesting of which is this video from a helicopter that knew exactly where to look to catch the fire whirls springing up from this fire front here. So you can see in the middle of the screen, several small fire whirls that are springing up, and they're very straight and narrow, and they are kind of moving from right to left a little quicker than the rest of the fire is. So I thought that was a little bit anomalous. So we've seen an uptick in fire whirl behavior, and most of these fire whirls are also very long and skinny, which I thought was kind of strange. All right, so now we have some more fire behavior to show. This is a home that's completely fully engulfed. However, when they zoom out here, you can see that the home is the only thing burning, and the trees are not even on fire. So how did this home catch on fire if nothing else around it is burning? And then we have other structures like this one you can see where none of the trees around the structure are on fire, but the structure itself was on fire. It almost looks as if in some cases, the grass caught the homes on fire, which I find to be unlikely. But then in other cases, it looked like the homes caught the grass on fire. And then we have another video here that shows structures. Basically, it's only the structures that are burning in most of these images. And the trees, which are hard to see here, but the trees are mostly okay. You can see that, it's only a structure and grass fire, basically. And then I have another house here that they zoom in on, and you can see it's in an area of burned grass. All the black is the burned grass. The green spots are the trees. But then in the middle of all this, you have this house that's burning evenly all the way around. It almost looks like this house caught fire from the inside out. And I don't think the grass started this home on fire. It almost looks like the home started the grass on fire. And it looks very much like this home possibly started from the inside out. And once again, I'd like to point out that it's very unlikely for a small grass fire to actually catch a structure on fire. Grass only burns at a few hundred degrees, and most of the materials in a home actually take a few extra 100 degrees to actually ignite. All right, so now I have another video I want to play. This is a home that's burning right among the trees, and you can see that not a single leaf on the tree is burning. It almost looks like, once again, somehow the grass caught this structure on fire, which I find to be highly unlikely. But as it continues to burn, none of these trees around it actually catch fire. And that's probably why we see in the aftermath, which we will look at here soon, most of the trees actually still have their leaves. I only found 1 or 2 trees that had actually burned. All right. So now I have another image or video I want to show. And this is where it looks like the grass exposed the structures. So all of the black is the grass, which has burned. And then you can see all of the gray are already burned structures. And then most of the flames that we see here are structures only. So I see almost no grass burning, no trees burning. It's nothing but structures that are on fire. All right. And then we have another video of the fire, and this is just another example of the trees that are still not burning. So we see one home that's fully engulfed, and then the home next to it has caught fire on the side next to the burning home, which actually does make sense until you look around and you see all the trees are still green. So it looks like the only thing that could have caught the first house on fire would be the grass. And I find that to be highly unlikely. So what is it that actually caught the first house on fire? Because the first house is probably what caught the second house on fire, but I have no idea how the first house got burning. All right, so now we're going to go through a little bit more of the fire and the fire behavior, and then go into the aftermath. Now, there's nothing particularly suspicious about this except for the leaves that are still not burning. And then most of the structures here, you can see every flammable piece of the structures are completely gone. And all that's left is basically bricks and steel and the leaves on the trees. And this truck here, how did that patch of grass do that to the truck? I don't think that's possible that the grass did that to the truck. No way. So yeah, if you had a grass fire underneath the vehicle, it should just burn right past it underneath it. And it shouldn't even start the tires on fire or anything else. Okay, so now we have some more videos here of the aftermath. So this is an area that had burned. Even some of these vehicles burned. This bug under the trees has burned, and I will show that up close a little bit later. But you can see most of the structures along this street have burned down to a white ash, but all of the trees still have their leaves. All that's burned is the grass and the structures. And so I find that to be highly anomalous. Why did the fire not climb any of these bushes or trees? You can see one tree is missing its leaves there. So that's one. And I think there might be one more tree in one of these clips that actually is missing its leaves right there. And I believe what's next to it might have actually been a pole or a post. Now, this red planter or whatever that is sitting in a patch of unburned grass. So I don't find that to be very anomalous. But when you look at, it looks like just the grass burned, but where the grass burned, if there was any structures or metallic objects, they were pretty much completely destroyed. So, yeah. All right. So, yeah, lots of leaves and only structures burned, it looks like. All right. So now I'm going to go back to that car, and I'm going to show you the car underneath the trees. So the trees look totally fine. Even the grass looks mostly okay. It's only scorched in patches, but somehow it completely destroyed that car, which was sitting in the parking lot. All right, let's see here. I do have some more aftermath images to go through. So this is the historic building. I think it might have actually been a bank building. And let's see, there was also a post office, which was impacted. And the one thing I really thought was unique was this car. So we've seen this time and time again, but this doesn't look like a normal flame, especially from a grass fire. So you can see that not only is the aluminum rim melted, which would require over 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, but the back window is also melted, and that would require over 2500 degrees Fahrenheit. And I just want to remind people that the normal forest fire maximum burns at 1500 degrees. All right, so now what I wanted to show in this image is the trailer in the back left. This is another one of those sheet and post style trailers, which we've seen several times before, where the steel is actually still intact, but the sheet aluminum on the sides has pretty much completely melted away, except for where there's just a little bit attached to the steel posts. And then here's a house, all of which, all that's left of it is the bricks and maybe some steel. And even some of the bricks are missing. I thought that was unusual. So if you look at the top of this window here, even a couple of those cinder blocks are missing from the home as well. And then I have one more image to show. of a boat that somehow survived when pretty much everything around it has burned, except for the leaves on the trees. But everything else around this boat has pretty much burned up. And I think perhaps the reason that the boat didn't burn is because of its color, which you may notice is blue. All right. And that's pretty much all I have, except for a couple of news clips that go into the phenomenon of dry lightning. So they're trying
Really
to
quick
blame this.
though, can I just mention before I forget, these historic towns with a lot of historic structures that can't be demolished to rebuild or to redevelop, it seems to be very common that these fires do destroy historic towns and destroy historic buildings like we saw in Lahaina and a number of different places like in California. Because if you think about the redevelopment of areas, having historic buildings does get in the way because you can't just legally you can't just knock it down and build a new structure. But if it does burn down, then you kind of have to.
Mhm.
And also, it's called Chinese camp because a lot of the miners back then were Chinese, and this town is plagued with a lot of violence. There was a lot of like race wars and these like outbreaks of violence and people were killed. So this area does have a very long history, not all, good things, but it's these kind of areas that I feel when you do wipe them off the map, it does often like wipe the history along with it. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like Lahaina, pretty much when it comes to these historical areas. All right, so yeah, the phenomenon of dry lightning. So dry lightning is another one of those terms that I had not really heard until maybe a year ago, and then we heard it again during the Alaska and Canadian fires that were being blamed on dry lightning. So I was like, "What is dry lightning exactly?" And there's a couple of news clips that go into it, but I don't necessarily buy their story. But I'm going to let you hear it.
Hey, I learned a new term, dry lightning. Well, it's just that. When you get a lightning strike, not associated with a good drenching rain, which would put out a fire, a lightning strike just like this, and this is just outside of Yosemite, which is a pretty good landmark for a lot of people to recognize. And currently, that's where this cluster fire is burning. So there were dozens of these dry lightning strikes, igniting about 6 different fires. They've now converged into one. 13,000 acres have been burned, over 13,000, with 0% containment.
So yes, there are over 13,000 acres that have burned. However, the fire has only been merged from an operational standpoint. The fires didn't physically merge, but the fire department is treating them as if they were one fire. All right, so now I have one more news clip that goes into this phenomenon of dry lightning, and then I'm going to give my rebuttal afterwards.
Lightning could even be seen from the Bay Area. This video was recorded early Tuesday morning in Belmont, but viewers told me they saw lightning or heard thunder in Colma, Pittsburgh, Clayton, San Jose, and even Petaluma. While the lightning threat has subsided, fires from those past strikes are still possible.
Lightning strikes are super unpredictable, and we will generally see fires begin, of course, immediately, but up to a week, maybe 2 weeks sometimes, especially out in the forests.
Sadly, here in Chinese camp, the damage has already been done.
Now, I don't necessarily agree with that fire battalion chief. Lightning strikes are somewhat predictable, and most of the time they don't start fires, even when they do strike like a dry or even dead tree. But for some reason, he's trying to say that, these lightning strikes from September 2nd could end up causing fires a week or two down the road. Now, I don't buy that story. If you did have a lightning caused fire, it would go out relatively quickly, and I doubt that it would smolder for 2 weeks before flaring up. So I think that's part of the story that they're trying to push and get people to believe.
Something else I just remembered, this area is known to be heavily sprayed with planes. And that video we did about the woman confronting the pilot that was, flying a plane that was spraying, it was in, I believe, over Sonora, over this area.
Actually, I
So,
think you're right. Yeah.
so if you think about if this area, and I believe she said titanium, aluminum, barium, like a bunch of metals that she actually measured and found that that's what was coming out of these planes. If you think about this area being sprayed with nanoparticles of metal, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it kind of makes sense that it would make this area prone to plasma lightning because it's kind of electrified, right? If there's metal in the air, that's conductive to lightning and plasma.
Well,
Is that
yeah, not
right?
only does it make the air more conductive, but then when the trees soak that up, it makes the trees more conductive and reactive to, electromagnetic frequencies as well. Not only that, but aluminum is a desiccant, which will dry things out and make it easier to burn as well.
Yeah, so I do think the Sierra Nevadas is an area, and Yosemite is an area that's being really hit with these types of events. And even Yosemite is becoming harder to visit for different reasons. I remember I looked into going there a few years ago, and they had closed down a huge area because they said the rats or the mice were spreading like the plague or some kind of or norovirus, some kind of really serious virus. And so, of course, I thought I'm not going to take my family there, right? There's these infected mice. But now that I'm seeing this, it kind of seems like there's a kind of a push to get people out of this area. I don't know. It seems to be getting more and more frequent that there are deterrents from visiting the Sierra Nevadas.
Yeah, and Robert has actually told me that they're making it harder to get hiking passes for the Sierras as well. So they're forcing people to go online and sign up for a hiking pass. You can't just show up and pay money anymore.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's really sad because I have memories as a kid going to this area. And yeah, I don't really see myself going there anymore. You know, when you hear about all these infected
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
rats, but I guess that's kind of the world we live in now. Was there anything else we wanted to bring up?
That's all I have for today.
Okay. But I really got attracted to the story because I'm really interested in this area. Some of you might know what the Sierra sounds are. I'm not going to play it, but if you're interested, there's a man named Ron Moorhead, and in the 70s, he recorded what we call the Sierra sounds. And though when I heard that recording, I wish I had it, but it actually got me interested in learning about cryptids. So if you're ready to go down that rabbit hole, those recordings were made in the Sierra Nevadas. And from what I hear, that area has been hit with fires. So, okay, so that's not going to do it.
Yep.
Okay, so if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so before you leave. And please like, comment, and share this video so we can let as many people know, because I don't think this event is really getting a lot of media. I hadn't heard about it till you told me about it. So let everyone know. Thank you guys so much for being here, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.